Friendo, Steve here. Welcome back to Wrestle Juice. It's time for another Ask Wrestle Juice. Once again, you guys left a bunch of great questions. Let's dive into it. First up, from Matthew Goldsmith. He asks, should CM Punk beat Hangman Page for the title? No, not at Double or Nothing anyways. I feel like they're still telling kind of a story with Hangman Page about him sort of like learning from being champion, and that's going to make him an even better champion. Now, there's one guy that should really take that title off of Hangman Page, and that is MJF. I feel like they're lining up a bunch of big names for Page to beat, and I feel like it should be MJF that takes the title off of Page, probably in Chicago, and then a year later at All Out 2023, we'll get CM Punk winning the title there in Chicago against MJF, who he has already had a big rivalry with. And I get the feeling they're going to revisit that for when MJF has the title and CM Punk ends up beating him. I think that's going to be the thing. Because, yeah, I think right now they're just trying to make Hangman Page's title run as big as possible, as legitimate as possible. So he's going to beat guys like Punk. He's already beat Danielson. They'll probably have him beat Mox. That'll be a hell of a match. And they'll have him beat Jericho. They'll have him beat all the former champions, all the big names. And then MJF's going to be the guy that finally beats him for the title. So that's how I think that's going to go. But no, if Punk is going to win the title, it's going to be in Chicago, and his title match is going to be a Double or Nothing. I don't think they're going to do another 3 months of a rivalry all the way to All Out for Punk to win, and I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to end up being MJF. But I think it's going to happen in September at All Out. I think that's going to be the case because that's a little bit, less than a year, and that's about how long they usually have the AEW World Championships, their reigns. So that sounds right. Richard Ives asks, what are your thoughts on themed pay-per-views? He says, for example, only having Hell in a Cell matches in October is ridiculous to me. I like some of them. I like Survivor Series, brand versus brand. I think that should stick around. I like that. Hell in a Cell is that's the one where it's like, Hell in a Cell should be a match that makes sense to have when there is a feud that warrants it. Not just, hey, it's October, let's have Hell in a Cell. I agree with that. So I think that gimmick matches that are a big deal need to be, necessitated by story, not because, hey, it's October, it's that time again. Let's see here. CT Van asks, after watching your second video on unifying the WWE and Universal titles, I started to wonder, do you think WWE had planned to do this for some time now, which is one of the reasons they haven't built many main event stars? I actually think they have plenty of good main event stars. I just think that once they realized that Roman was successful in this current role as the tribal chief, I think then they realized, okay, this is going to be a really long run. According to Dave Meltzer, and I kind of believe this, the original plan for Roman was for there to be a face turn and relatively fast, and his first title run was not going to be that long. Once they realized what they had with him is probably when they were like, we're going to go all in on this version of Roman because we have Roman where we want him. And that means eventually they're going to try to turn him into the biggest face the company's ever seen. Whether or not it'll work, who knows? But I think they have a decent shot because I think Roman is super over as the tribal chief right now. Let's see here. D Key asks, do you think some ex-WWE guys like Andrade and others are second guessing going to AEW? They're kind of in the same placement on the card, just a lesser viewed and lesser known platform. Why do people say that about Andrade? He's in a far better situation than he was in WWE. I mean, in NXT, he was hot shit, but once he got to main roster, they never did anything with him. I think he had one title for a period of time. He had like the US title or something weird like that. But they never did anything with Andrade, really. So, no, he's main evented several Dynamites. He beat Darby Allin and he lost to Darby Allin. He's in this constant thing with Sting. I don't know. I kind of feel like we're seeing a lot out of Andrade lately, but everybody says, oh, Andrade. Not everybody can win everything. I do think there are people in AEW probably have reason to complain. He's not one of them. The only person I can really think of is, I think of two people off the bat. I think immediately when Keith Lee came in, like, what is he even doing right now? I think Keith Lee was a guy. I think that they should not have signed other people and should have signed Keith Lee. Malachi Black is right now in a feud. He's got an awesome collection of guys around him. He's got the House of Black, and he's feuding with Fuego, and he has been for several weeks now. This confuses me. It confuses me to no end. It's weird. He should be feuding with somebody like Andrade or something. I don't know. He should be doing a lot more. He's not really in a great spot. But I think he's got a lot more upside in his current spot than he did have in WWE. He could have been a world beater. He could have been a top champion. That still boggles my mind that they didn't figure out that guy. Eddie asks, with AEW and New Japan working together in a super show in June, what is your dream AEW versus New Japan match? The one that I want to see most is Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. Easily. That's going to be a classic. That being said, I will be putting out a video, I think tomorrow or Monday, where I'm going to take a look at the other card. Because I did this 5 months ago. I even called the name of the pay-per-view, Forbidden Door. It seemed pretty obvious. I don't think Tony Khan is paying attention to this channel. Where I booked a card, but it is way out of date. It is really out of date. So I'm going to revisit that, and I'm going to give you guys my new ideas for what I'd like to see with the card. And me and Larson actually talked about this on a video that's going up today over at Friendo Club TV, where we sort of bounce off each other. But I'll give you my Wrestle Juice ideas here, I think tomorrow, or sometime soon anyways. Spider Bite, do you think that Danhausen should win a title in AEW? Not really. He doesn't need one. To be over, he does not need a title. That guy should not be near titles. There are people who really sort of can use the titles. He's not one of them. I think he just gets by on who he is and his personality, and he doesn't need a title. Let's see here. Sean Sterling, with the Blackpool Combat Club now another trio. Could you see the trio's title finally getting introduced with a tournament through the summer? I think it's possible it's going to happen before Kenny comes back. Tony Khan has said that he's going to wait for Kenny Omega to come back before doing the tournament or before doing the trios title. I don't know when Kenny Omega is supposed to come back. Maybe it'll be this summer. I don't know. He's getting a lot of work done on him because he was working through a ton of injuries. So I'm not entirely sure when he's going to be back. And they might want to introduce that before Kenny comes back, if he's going to be back a while. I'm sorry, if he's going to be gone a while. So I think it's a possibility. I have no idea, though. Deep Voice Dude asks, how important do you think match order is to the success of a pay-per-view? It's important. It's important. There's got to be peaks and valleys. There's got to be cool down matches. There's got to be gimmick stuff between like really hot matches. So yeah, match order is important. That Sports Entertainment asks, should Drew McIntyre beat Roman Reigns at the UK pay-per-view? He says, I don't think WWE should pass up on the insane pop Drew would get if he wins. That'd be awesome. That'd be great. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Something tells me, like, I don't think it's necessary for Roman to have both those titles for another year leading into his showdown with The Rock. But it probably makes for a better case for him versus The Rock. For Roman to be able to go in there and say, I haven't been beat. I've stacked everybody. I've smashed everybody. And then he goes in there against The Rock. Because you're going up against The Rock. So, yeah, probably not. I mean, Drew is the guy to go there, but how do you have Drew lose in front of that crowd? Ugh. Let's see here. Mitchell, if the New Japan AEW shows a huge success, how likely is WWE to try to get in on the action? Not likely at all. They could care less about any other wrestling promotion. They will never get involved in a Forbidden Door thing. That will never happen. They don't feel like they can lower themselves to be on the same level. Triple H even said that WWE is the NFL and AEW is the XFL. And there's a massive difference between the two. And he knows that completely. WWE thinks of themselves as the big leagues. They will not put themselves on the same level as any other company. Forbidden Door will not happen with WWE. That's a guarantee. I will eat this piece of paper right here. that happens to say fact. Because it's a fact. I'll keep this right here at my desk. And if WWE opens a forbidden door to AEW or New Japan, I'll eat that piece of paper. Let's see here. Shavon, with Adam Cole out of the title picture, do you see him eventually winning the Owen Hart tournament to eventually challenge for the world title? He'll win the world title eventually. Adam Cole will win that world title eventually. He also will win the Owen tournament. That will happen because him and Britt are both going to win their tournaments. That's going to happen. That's the consolation prize for not winning the title. 100%. Billy Edkin says, how do you feel about not only predicting the New Japan AEW event happening and the name? I feel pretty good about myself, but it was kind of an obvious name and it was kind of an obvious thing that was going to happen. Leon says, which member of FTR do you think will qualify to be in the Owen tournament? It's going to be Cash. It's going to be Cash. I will guarantee that. I'm not going to eat a piece of paper, but it's going to be Cash. Trust me on that one. D Key says, do you feel, this is a good question. I'm going to end on this one. Do you feel the new car smell is wearing off of AEW? I'm noticing more criticism on the product. So AEW's always had a level of criticism. But now that it's been 3 years, I feel like there's more justified criticism levied towards AEW. And there's two things I can point at. Number one is they have too many people and they don't know what to do with them. And you can look at Malachi Black, you can look at Keith Lee. People think that with Andrade. I kind of don't think that's the case. But you have a talent like Swerve Strickland. Man, I don't know where he's going to land, but I think he's a terrific talent. But they have a lot of terrific talent there. And there's people who are out, like Pac's not been around. Orange Cassidy, I think, is injured. And Malachi Black. I'm sorry, Malachi Black. He's been around. And Kenny Omega. So one of the criticisms is, hey, why are you putting Jeff Hardy on Dark Elevation? Now, I get it. Like, those are AEW properties that they want to boost the numbers for. So you put big names over there. They're under contract. They're going to do that. And then people go, well, they put them on main event too. I can see kind of a difference there. I can also see the other side of that. I can see the similarities there. So that's one criticism that I think is valid. I think Tony Khan probably could use somebody to handle some element of creative. And it makes me wonder if maybe Cody did some of that stuff. You can take a look at the TNT title scene right now with Sammy Guevara and Scorpio Sky. And like, that was stupid. And I don't know, maybe he needs some help. Maybe he does actually need some help. He's got a lot on his plate. The other one is a personal one of mine, and that's the women's division. He literally said what Dynamite 2 weeks ago was like one of his favorite outlines. And on that outline was a 2.5 minute women's match. And that's it. They do have really good elements of their women's division. Like they've got the Serena Deeb, Hikaru Shida street fight coming up next week. I'm sure that's going to be fantastic. Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker main evented the Dynamite for the title. It was fantastic. But on a consistent weekly basis, oftentimes the women's division is overlooked. There has not been a period when consistently you've had more than one women's match per episode of Dynamite. That hasn't happened. And that's, I think, justifiable criticism. You might agree with it or not, but it does seem like Tony Khan really has no interest in a women's division beyond like Britt Baker and maybe Jade Cargill. So yeah, those are legitimate criticisms, and those I feel should be fixed. And yeah, I think a lot of people were sort of holding out hope that, this is going to be everything that WWE isn't, everything that we criticize WWE for. This is what AEW is going to be. Well, that's not the case. Tony Khan has his own predilections. He's got his own, what he wants to see on his program. He's writing the checks. He owns it, and it's his playground. There's a lot about AEW that I really like. There's a ton there that I like, and I think it is a good, viable, solid alternative to WWE, unless you value stuff like women's wrestling. Then you got to go elsewhere. So yeah, I think that, the honeymoon period is done. They're going to be criticized justifiably for things they should be criticized for. There's always going to be the trolls out there. There's always going to be the bad faith arguments. And those have been there from the beginning. People who just simply don't want to see AEW succeed. And I'm not talking about that stuff. And you know exactly who I'm talking about when I say that stuff. If you pay attention at all to the internet, to Twitter, you know the kind of bad faith arguments that are out there when it comes to AEW. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about actual criticism. That should be something that is debated in good faith. It should be something that is looked at and criticized, like I said, in good faith, with the stated goal, with the stated desire that the product improve in those areas where it should improve. Nothing's perfect. Nothing is perfect. And so, but yeah, I'm glad about that. I'm glad that we now see what Tony Khan wants AEW to be, so that maybe enough of a voice can come forward and say, hey, this is something that we thought you were going to give us, and now you're not giving it to us. What's the deal with that? And then maybe changes can be made, or they won't, and then people will decide. There was another question here as well about, while we're talking about AEW, and it is, let's see here. It was a good one too. It had to do with the ratings, and is AEW sort of reached their peak. Here we go, from DK also. Says, it's been like 3 years now. Why in your opinion hasn't AEW grown more? Roughly 900,000 viewership for a while now. You know how when you're you feel like you're overweight and you're like, man, I got to lose some weight, man. I've been eating like shit lately. I haven't been exercising, and it's been months since I've hit the gym, and I really need to cut down on my sugar and carbs, right? You start doing that. You lose a bunch of weight off the bat because you're doing all this stuff. And then what happens? You hit a wall. You peak, right? And then you got to work harder to get more off. That's where AEW is now. WWE had all those releases with all those names that we all loved, and they snapped them all up, right? And they found out that, okay, between 900 and 1 million total viewership a week, that's where that got us. All Out of last year, the big debuts, Danielson and Cole, right? And Ruby Soho. That's where it got him. CM Punk is on TV opening Dynamites every single week. That's where this got them, to around 900,000 to 1 million, which, by the way, is probably around double the amount that TNT would be really happy with, because those are pretty good numbers. Those are not bad, but those are really good numbers. Now, what is it going to take to get them consistently to 1 million, to 1.1, to 1.2? What's going to bring in those extra names? Because essentially they've already taken the NXT 1.0 audience. They've already taken the New Japan audience that wanted to see the Bucks and Kenny. They've already taken the CM Punk audience, the Bryan Danielson audience. What's going to get them to the next level? Is it just a battle of, let's keep on putting on this consistent product, let's keep on putting on pay-per-views that are very buzzworthy, or is that just going to keep them at that 900,000? I don't know. Something. Is it going to be one of the horsewomen? Is it going to be a Seth Rollins, which, by the way, is never going to happen? Would Kevin Owens have been that thing? Maybe. Would Sami Zayn have been that thing? Maybe. Would AJ Styles be that thing? Maybe. Not going to happen. Would Chris Jericho's already there. He's going to go the other way. That will happen, by the way. Chris Jericho's totally going back to WWE at the end of his contract. So I don't know. I think if they're able to get some more big signings off of WWE, that kind of stuff will help. I feel like they've maxed out the New Japan NXT 1.0 audience, though. The Super Show is going to be great. It's not going to grow their audience at all, though. It's just sort of keeping the current audience with it and engaged, which is important because then you're not going to have atrophy. You're not going to have drop off. So that's how I feel about that. AEW's got more work to do to continue to improve. They're already putting out a stellar product. I like Dynamite, with the exception of they don't do the women's wrestling thing, and I enjoy women's wrestling. So yeah, that's how I feel about that. Hey, let me know what you think about all this in the comments below. Thanks for all the great questions. I'm going to try to answer more of these on the actual QA thread, so keep an eye open for that. Tucked out. Just tucked. Oh, there she is. That's a stretch. All right. Anyways, check out one of these other videos right here. Talk about title unification. Hell, I'll put them both up right here. Talk about title unification. Good thing, bad thing. Let me know about that. Check out those videos. Thanks for watching, everybody. I appreciate it, and I'll see you over there.